All right, so we're diving into something pretty fascinating today. We got a request to explore how the Baha'i Faith approaches truth.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a big topic. But what's interesting is it's not about just blindly accepting a set of beliefs.
Right.
It's more like getting a whole new mental toolkit for investigating reality,
Yeah.
Like upgrading your understanding to a whole new operating system.
I like that, yeah. A new operating system for truth. That's a great way to think about it. Because, you see, the Baha'i Faith, it really emphasizes independent investigation over just inheriting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about using your own powers of reason, your own experiences, to kind of arrive at an understanding of truth.
So instead of saying, hey, here's what you should believe, it's more like, here are the tools, now go explore for yourself.
Exactly.
I have to admit, that's a pretty refreshing take, especially coming from a religion.
Mm.
I mean, how many actually encourage you to question things, really?
Right. It's a key distinction. When you look at other religions, many rely on things like historical accounts for validation.
Oh, okay. Take Christianity, for example, right? A lot hinges on the accounts of Jesus' disciples.
Right, right.
Or Islam, where the sheer number of followers is often cited as proof.
Mm.
But the Baha'i Faith, it encourages you to go beyond that blind acceptance.
Okay, so what does this toolkit for truth-seeking actually look like, then? What tools are we talking about?
Well, Abdu'l-Baha, who's one of the central figures of the Baha'i Faith, outlines 5 main avenues for investigating truth.
Okay.
And those are the senses, holy writings, rational thought, reflection in the heart, and divine knowledge.
5 avenues. Okay. I'm intrigued. So I guess the senses seem like the most obvious place to begin.
Yeah.
I mean, we experience the world through our senses, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But even our senses, they have limitations.
Yeah, for sure.
Think about optical illusions, right? They constantly remind us that perception can be a bit tricky. What we see isn't always the full picture.
Oh, I hate those things.
Right. They totally mess with your head.
Right.
But I get your point. I guess we can't just rely on our senses blindly, even though that's our primary way of interacting with the world.
Exactly. So the senses are kind of a starting point, but we need more.
Okay.
And then we have holy writings, which the Baha'i Faith views as being divinely inspired.
Right.
However, it's emphasized that these writings require careful interpretation.
Okay, see, here's where I personally struggle.
Okay.
I've tried reading religious texts before, and I always feel like I'm missing something. Like I'm trying to decipher a code.
Oh, you're not alone in that. That's why Baha'is believe that only a manifestation of God can really fully interpret these writings.
Okay.
Someone like, Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, Muhammad, or in the case of the Baha'i Faith, Baha'u'lláh. So it's not about imposing our own subjective interpretations, but really striving to understand the deeper principles being conveyed and seeing how they can be applied.
All right. So we've got the senses, which can be deceiving.
Right.
And holy writings, which need expert interpretation.
Right.
What about this rational thought tool? Is this where we get to put on our detective hats and analyze things?
Absolutely. Reason and logic, they're incredibly important in the Baha'i teachings.
Okay.
It's about questioning, analyzing, and using your intellect to kind of arrive at an understanding.
Right.
Think of it as constantly evaluating and reassessing, never just blindly accepting.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that ties back to the whole independent investigation thing.
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself, questioning things you come across, whether it's online or even something you hear from someone else? I know I do all the time.
Oh, yeah, all the time. That questioning attitude is essential.
Right.
It's about cultivating a critical mind, something that the Baha'i Faith strongly encourages.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is already getting me to think differently about how I approach, everything.
Yeah.
But we still have 2 more tools to unpack, right? Reflection in the heart and divine knowledge.
Right.
Which sound a lot more, mysterious, to be honest.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, those last 2, reflection in the heart and divine knowledge, they do seem a bit more, abstract.
Right, right.
But they're crucial to the Baha'i approach to truth.
Okay.
But, before we even get there, I think it's worth kind of pausing and considering how this whole framework really challenges more traditional approaches.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this toolkit for truth-seeking, but how does that actually play out in someone's life?
Yeah, I mean, how does it actually affect how people live?
Well, one of the things the Baha'i Faith really emphasizes is this elimination of superstitions.
Oh, okay.
So any belief that isn't rooted in logic, evidence, or divine principles is something we should be questioning.
Wait, so you're saying things like Lucky Charms and avoiding black cats, those are out?
Well, yeah. I mean, some superstitions are definitely more lighthearted than others.
Yeah, for sure.
But the point is that the Baha'i teachings kind of encourage us to really examine our beliefs.
Right.
See if they're based on solid ground or just, inherited assumptions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It ties back into that independent investigation thing, right? You can't really think for yourself if you're just holding on to a bunch of beliefs you've never actually questioned.
Exactly. And this leads to another key point. Becoming a Baha'i, it isn't the end goal,
Okay.
It's really just the beginning. The beginning of a lifelong journey of learning and growth.
Oh, interesting.
So your understanding of the teachings, it deepens over time. And that's where the real transformation happens, you see.
So it's not about reaching some fixed point of belief, but it's more of an ongoing process of learning and evolving.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a dynamic path,
Sure.
a constant striving to understand the truth more deeply and to live in accordance with it.
Okay. So how does that work practically? What does this journey of learning and growth look like day to day?
So one of the core practices is daily engagement with the Baha'i writings.
Okay.
But it's not about just reading them passively. It's about active reflection, contemplation, really trying to understand how these teachings can be applied to your life and the world around you.
So it's more than just a quick skim before bed.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's more like a deep dive into the meaning and how it relates to your life.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this process of engaging with the writings, it helps with another really crucial aspect, and that's unlearning old patterns.
You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
This resetting the mindset idea, it sounded a little intimidating, to be honest.
I mean, it can be challenging, but it's also incredibly freeing.
Yep.
It's about recognizing that we all have these preconceived notions, biases, patterns of thinking that we've inherited.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those patterns just don't align with the principles of the Bahá'í Faith.
Okay.
So it's about examining those patterns and, if needed, consciously working to change them.
So it's like having outdated software running in your brain that needs an upgrade.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah. And just like a software update can improve the functionality of your computer, unlearning those old patterns can help you become more aligned with the teachings and live a more fulfilling life.
Okay, so we've got the senses, holy writings, rational thought.
Yeah.
And now this process of unlearning old patterns.
Mm-hmm.
But we still haven't really talked about those final two tools, right? Reflection in the heart and divine knowledge.
Yeah.
Those still sound, a little more mystical.
They do. But they're incredibly powerful. So reflection in the heart, this is about connecting with your inner wisdom, intuition. So it's about going beyond logic and reason and tapping into a deeper source of knowing.
So you're talking about intuition, like that gut feeling you sometimes get.
Yeah, that's part of it, but it's more than just a hunch, It's a profound knowing that comes from a place of spiritual connection. Think of mystics like Rumi, who often wrote about this type of inner knowing.
Yeah.
He really emphasized the importance of reflection and stillness as a way to connect with this deeper truth.
So it's not just about thinking with your head, but also feeling with your heart.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we have divine knowledge, which is perhaps the most difficult to describe.
Right.
It's the understanding that there's a source of truth that transcends our human limitations.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing that our individual understanding is limited, but through spiritual practices like prayer and meditation, we can open ourselves to a higher level of knowing.
So it's almost like tuning into a cosmic radio station that broadcasts truth.
That's a good analogy.
Okay.
And like any radio, the clarity of the signal can vary.
Right.
But the more we refine our ability to listen, to become receptive, the more clearly we can receive that knowledge.
Wow. All of this is making me think about my own beliefs in a completely new way.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this is an ongoing, maybe even lifelong process.
It is. And the Baha'i Faith provides a framework for that journey, a set of tools and practices that help us navigate it. And it's a journey that individuals undertake, but it's also about working together to build a better world.
You've mentioned that a few times now, this building a better world thing.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like? And how does this idea of truth fit into it?
So that's where the concept of the Universal House of Justice comes in. It's an elected body that provides guidance for building a more just and peaceful society.
Okay.
And its guidance is based on the principles of the Baha'i Faith.
Right.
So it's about applying those principles to create positive change in the world.
So they're kind of like the architects of this new world order.
Not exactly. I mean, they provide guidance and direction, but it's not about blind obedience. They encourage individuals and communities to use their own understanding, their own initiative, to implement these principles in a way that makes sense for their specific context.
So they offer a blueprint, but each community kind of gets to customize it to fit their own needs and circumstances.
That's a great way to put it. And that's where the real magic happens, you see. It's not about imposing a rigid system, but about empowering people to use their own creativity and ingenuity to build a better world.
Okay, so this is all starting to click.
Okay.
But earlier you mentioned something about obedience with understanding when it comes to the guidance from the Universal House of Justice.
Right.
What does that actually mean?
So it's about actively engaging with the guidance,
Okay.
trying to understand the deeper meaning,
Right.
then figuring out how to apply it in a thoughtful and nuanced way.
So it's not just about following orders blindly.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about using your reason, your heart, your understanding of the teachings to figure out how to put these principles into action in a way that's both effective and meaningful.
So there's a lot of individual responsibility involved then.
Yeah.
It's not like someone's telling you exactly what to do in every situation.
Right. The Baha'i teachings emphasize individual initiative and responsibility, even when it comes to following guidance. So it's about using your own judgment, your own understanding of the teachings to make decisions and take action.
This is a lot to digest, to be honest.
Oh, I know. It's a lot.
It's like you're asking me to rethink everything I thought I knew about religion.
It can be challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding.
Right.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. It's about constantly striving to deepen your understanding and live in alignment with the truth.
Right.
And the beauty of it is there's no end point. There's always more to learn, more to discover, more to contribute.
I have to admit, part of me is feeling a little overwhelmed with all this information.
Yeah, I understand.
But another part of me is incredibly intrigued. It's like a whole new world is opening up. And I'm not even sure where to begin exploring. Oh, my head is spinning.
I know, it's a lot, right?
We've covered so much ground, from those 5 tools for investigating truth to that whole idea of unlearning old patterns and embracing this lifelong journey of learning and growth.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It is. It is. But, okay, I'm starting to get these tools in the mindset shift, but how does this all translate into real life?
That's the key, right?
What does it actually look like to live a life aligned with truth, like the Bahá'í Faith understands it?
Well, it's about integrating those principles into everything you do.
Okay.
Your relationships, your work, your interactions with your community, it all becomes part of this journey.
So it's not just about being a good person in isolation, but about actually working to make the world a better place.
Exactly. You know, the Baha'i writings talk about building an ever-advancing civilization. It's a pretty ambitious goal, but it's that idea of constantly striving to create a more just, peaceful, and unified world.
I get the grand vision, but what does that actually look like on a practical level? Like, what kind of actions are we talking about?
Let's take the principle of eliminating prejudice, for instance. That's really central to the Baha'i teachings.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you apply that in your daily life?
Right.
It might mean challenging a joke that perpetuates stereotypes. Or speaking up when you see someone being treated unfairly because of their race, their religion, any other characteristic.
Right.
It might mean volunteering for an organization that promotes diversity and inclusion.
So it's about taking those abstract principles and making them concrete actions in your own life.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Right.
And realizing that even small actions can contribute to a larger transformation.
That makes sense. But this whole idea of an ever-advancing civilization, it's inspiring, but also kind of daunting.
It is big, right?
It's such a huge goal.
Yeah.
Where do you even begin?
Well, remember, it's a journey, not a sprint. And you don't have to do it alone. There's a whole community of people who are also striving to live in alignment with these teachings and to contribute to a better world.
That's really reassuring to hear. It's like having a support system,
Yeah.
people who are on the same path and can offer encouragement and guidance.
Exactly. And one of the things that makes the Baha'i community really unique is that it's open to everyone. Regardless of your background, your beliefs, you're welcome to explore these teachings and see what resonates with you.
As we're talking about all this, one of the things that strikes me is the level of trust involved.
Oh, interesting.
Trust in the writings, trust in the Universal House of Justice, trust in your own intuition. Even
Right.
it's a big departure from all the skepticism and doubt we see so much of today.
It is, yeah. I think that trust stems from the fact that the Bahá'í Faith really encourages us to use our own reason and experience to verify the truth of these teachings, you know? It's not blind faith, but more of a reasoned conviction that grows over time as you see how these principles actually work in your own life and in the world around you.
So it's a faith that's grounded in both reason and experience.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a powerful combination.
It is, and I think that's what makes it so compelling, you know?
Right.
It's a faith that speaks to both the head and the heart. It encourages us to use all of our faculties, our intellect, intuition, capacity for love and compassion to really understand truth and to build a better world.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on the Baha'i approach to truth.
Good, I'm glad.
Is there one key takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with today?
I think I'd want them to remember that the Baha'i Faith offers a dynamic and empowering path to truth, one that encourages independent investigation, critical thinking, and a lifelong journey of learning and growth. It's a path that's open to everyone.
Right.
And I believe it holds immense potential for transforming not only individual lives, but also the world we share.
That's beautifully said. And I think it's a message that resonates deeply, regardless of your background or beliefs. So if you found yourself intrigued by any of this, I encourage you to explore further. Read some of the Baha'i writings, connect with the community, and see where this path leads you.
It might surprise you.
It really might. And with that, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep seeking truth